Welcome to Heads Up Display, where we give you a well-rounded review of all the latest games. This week we're going to review Rain. We're going to start trying to do some more indie games on the show. This is the first one we've picked up, and I really liked it. It's it's a really simple game. There's only like 3 buttons for the controls, but it's got some dynamic elements to it, and we're just going to go right into it. What was your favorite part of the game?
Favorite part of the game? I think that we all agreed, we all played it together. Favorite part of the game was definitely just the ambiance of the game. Just the way the game felt. The music was extremely suited to the game. It was a very subtle musical score. The sound effect of the actual falling rain was actually pretty good. Like, it wasn't detracting from the game. It wasn't low quality. It really sounded like rain hitting cobblestone. So definitely just the environment and the ambiance that you experience whenever you were playing the game was my favorite part of the game.
I'd have to say that the actual characters and how they were made, how they were presented, all the cinematic sequences were done using like watercolors. So going back to that whole rain theme, and you can't see their faces, even when they step into the rain, which is supposed to give them features. You can't make them out. When they're in the watercolors, you can't see who it is, so you could really assign any identity to these 2 characters that you wanted. And also, they don't have a voice. Like, there's no spoken words in this. They even allude to it in the text of the game, saying that when they try to speak, their words float away on the wind.
My favorite part of the game was, I think it was the story. I mean, I really felt that there's no backstory on the first time you play it, but towards the end of the game, I was really, really connected to the characters. I thought the character development was good, and that the story really unfolded to make me really want to make them succeed. In comparison, my least favorite part of the game was the gameplay. Not because it was bad, just because I think that it could have been a little more in-depth.
Yeah.
The controls were what they need to be. Basic principle is it's raining, you go under cover, and you disappear. You walk out into the rain hits your body, and you can be seen by the enemies. And it's that simple, and you have to use that to solve these simple puzzles to go in and out. But the lack of complexity in the puzzles, there was no difficulty curve. Yeah. I feel like you mentioned that you feel like they thought this idea of the control scheme and just threw it into a game. And they did a really good job building the story, but the actual gameplay was lackluster.
Yeah. Whenever we were talking about how in a game like Gone Home, they had an idea. They were like, we want the player to experience this emotion. We want this player to experience this story. So let's come up with a concept that facilitates that information transfer. Whereas Rain really felt like we have this really cool idea for a gameplay mechanic of what if you're invisible unless you're standing in the rain, and then let's try and fit a story into that gameplay idea, which I think kind of hurt the gameplay a little bit. But I think that the gameplay worked for what it was trying to do, but ultimately, I don't know, there's 8 chapters in the game, and towards the end of the 6th chapter, you're really ramping up, you're really going towards something, and then you get there, and then for a series of events, it really takes a drop in pace and in tone, and it felt really awkward. That part felt really awkward to me. It was a really abrupt change.
So like when you're running through and it's the unknowns world?
Yes, whenever you get to the unknowns world in chapter 7, then it really kind of just really slammed on the brakes for a little bit before it picked up again towards the end.
Speaking of the unknowns world, each level has different architecture built, because you're wandering around this city in the whole game, and they don't really pinpoint where you are, but you can tell that it's in Europe. And I really, really like the architecture of the way they design the levels. This level, you're like, hey, look, we're in Paris, and the next, oh, look, we're in London. They don't, you don't see the Eiffel Tower, you don't see Buckingham Palace, but just you can tell. And they kept it ambiguous, but I really enjoyed that. You really liked the replay.
Oh, I love the fact that you can, once you finish the game, it only takes, I want to say, like 3 to 4 hours tops to finish the game. But then what you can do is go back through and find all of these memories. And while playing it, I figured out that you have to actually approach where a memory is for it to appear. So you can't be, you're standing in this one scene and then you can say, oh, I need to get up to that ledge. You have to approach the ledge and then it'll start to show where it is. So you collect these memories, and it fills in the backstory before the events of Reign happened.
Which I think was a really great way to tell the story, because that was my biggest concern going in as we started, and I was like, what's going on? There's no backstory, and then there's no character development at the beginning of it. I was really detached at the beginning, but then not having those collectibles in the game, and then beating it, and then being able to go through and pick up the backstory, the way that they put that together, it kept the backstory from interfering with the style of the game.
Well, to that point, I really liked how you really were featureless and amorphous whenever you were standing in the rain, and there is no voiceover, there's no dialogue to really speak of in the actual game, and that really gave me, even though there was no backstory, it let me imbue my own backstory onto the characters and my own emotions onto the characters.
Yeah, the entire time we were sitting there, every single, camera shift to the next room, we were like, well, we all just made up our own story for what was going on.
Exactly.
So,
so that's the good and bad about not having a backstory.
Yeah, and the other thing that you were talking about with camera, the game did an excellent job of making me feel really, really small and really, really powerless, just like you would if you were a child running through the rain trying to run away from monsters.
yeah, I haven't seen a fixed camera game done this well since Resident Evil 0.
Yeah. It's something that you don't see a lot anymore, the fixed camera games.
Because most people don't like it, but I think it worked
you have to
really
do it
well.
really
Really
well,
well.
and they pulled it off pretty well. So.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts for the game, I'd give it a 7. Just mainly because I really loved the game, but there were just little tweaks in there that could have made it better. We could have had more complexity in trying to figure out, we need to run this monster into this scaffolding to break it down. It's kind of like, really? And when you were trying to run through and open up doors, you'd have to be in just the right position to hit the button to make it open, which really sucks when the unknown is trying to run after you.
And when you're invisible.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 7.5 because I like how they accomplished what they did with such simple gameplay. Just like the way it was really, really simple and it was easy, which I think is a very necessary thing for a good indie game.
Yeah.
But it needed more difficult puzzles and a more profound difficulty curve. So 7.5.
I agree with both what you guys said. I'm going to go a little bit lower just because I had really high expectations for this game. It's been talked about for quite a while. I'm going to give it a 6.5. I think that I can see where your scores are coming from, but the game really felt like it was building to something, and it never got to where I hoped it was going, to where the puzzles would be more interesting or the chases would get more frantic and better. It just didn't quite finish the way I was hoping. It still had a great story. It still gave me a great cathartic release whenever you're running out and you're trying to save the girl that you're chasing after in the night. So it still worked as a game, but I think that it had a few gameplay and pacing problems that pulled the score down.
Well, that's a 7 for Heads Up Display score. $15, great style, fun to play, has a little bit of replayability. We think it was worth it. Give it a shot. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like us on Facebook, check out our YouTube page, and follow us on Twitter. See you next time.